Welcome to the Oh Baby We Got This podcast. In our special International Women's Day series, we're celebrating inspiring women in business. Today we chat with Lara Henderson, founder of Pure Mama, a natural skincare brand for pregnancy and beyond. Lara shares how she turned a personal need into a global brand, the challenges of scaling internationally, and the juggle of motherhood and entrepreneurship. If you love a good success story, this one's for you. For our next short interview to celebrate women in business for International Women's Day, I'm joined with Lara Henderson of Pure Mama. Pure Mama is a natural skincare brand targeting pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond. Welcome, Lara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Edge.
It's always good to have you here. And of course, love your brand and range of products. You've done absolutely amazing with the quality of the brand story. It's been so successful and it's really been wonderful watching you from launch to where it is now in the global market. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. It feels crazy because I think it was 3.5 years ago we launched, and like my very first editorial kind of piece we did with Oh Baby, and it just had like the picture of me with the initial products, and they've changed so much since then, but it's so crazy to look back on now. 3.5 years later to look at kind of that initial vision and see how it's come to life over the last couple of years.
And I remember when you sent me your brand guide, it was just like, oh, this is beautiful. This is needed. I want this product.
Yeah.
I'm not pregnant.
Well, I was pregnant. I just had my first son. Yeah, I think I was like, my son was like 1 at that point, but I hadn't had my second baby yet. But yeah, it's interesting because there really wasn't anything like it in the market. So it was so good to launch it and, to have come this far in 3.5 years and now be kind of on the global stage is just crazy to think.
Amazing. So rewind, tell us about your journey. How did Pure Mama come to life?
Oh, okay. So I guess I was pregnant. And I think, as people and as consumers, it's an interesting journey because when you fall pregnant, you start changing your diet, your skincare, there's prenatals, there's all these other things. And it's really easy to get overwhelmed in that first wee while because it's such like an exciting new chapter, but it's also quite like, wow, this is a huge change, right? And I was looking for natural skincare. I was looking for like a belly oil. That's kind of where I started. I'd never been much of a body care person. I've always done facial skincare, but I never really was like religious about anything like belly oils or body moisturizers or anything. But my skin started to get really tight and really itchy. It got really hot. It was getting really dry and things. And I was like, right, I want to really give my belly something because that's where I was feeling it the most. And I kind of went on this journey of looking at a range of all these different products in market and asking people about them. But I was just getting, the usual suspects like Bio Oil and Weleda and all of these other brands that I was looking at the ingredients in them. They weren't prioritizing natural and organic. They had synthetic fragrancing. They were using petroleum-based products, all of these things. And I had a real fundamental issue with that as a, kind of that modern conscious consumer. And then on top of that, I was looking at the way products looked, the way they smelt, and looking at if I could cherry pick every single ingredient that I wanted in a belly oil, what would that be? And so I kind of had this idea that was spiraling around in my head. And I was working in corporate marketing at the time, and the natural marketer in me went online. I looked at all of these brands. I looked at, what was in the products, how they were presented, just everything. And I couldn't find this brand that aligned with me as that, like I said, that modern conscious consumer. And I went through this journey, and then I went for a pregnancy massage a couple of different times. And I asked the therapist what I should be using, and they didn't know. They didn't have any strong brand recommendations. And I thought that was quite astounding too, given pregnancy isn't going anywhere and there's thousands of women that are pregnant every day. And then I actually had my son. And then I think it was he was about 6 weeks old when I registered the company. There's a photo of me the day that I registered it. I had it on the boob and I was like on my computer and stuff. And at that point, I was just like registering the base of it. And then kind of 6 to 8 months went on and I was really diving into how to bring this to life. And I experienced other challenges along the way, especially around breastfeeding. Again, I was in those early days of those first couple of weeks. It was really hard, really painful. And I was looking for something to kind of soothe my skin. It was cracked and raw and bleeding. I know too much info, but like it was just
All
that
that.
intense. I
Yep.
know, we're all in the right place for these kind of stories. But I went and I was looking for something and I got handed some lanolin, which I know is, really commonly recommended, but I found it quite sticky. And then I looked up how it was made, and it was made using a sheep's wool extract, which personally I was kind of going, oh, I didn't really feel comfortable about putting that on my body and into my baby's mouth. Was there a natural alternative? So again, I was kind of, where was this friction point that I was having? And if I was having it, other people must be having it too. But obviously, when you're in the throes of, the third trimester and an early stage postpartum, it's really challenging to navigate, let alone try and start a business.
Yeah.
But I kind of had these ideas swirling. I'd come up with a brand name, and I then spent, 6 to 8 months researching ingredients. And then I went into this, okay, well, how do I actually bring this to life? And I think my son was 6 months old at that point, and I started to really kind of dive into it. I bought puremama.com. I had to buy it off a US company, and that was kind of this pivot moment where I was like, I'm doing this, this is actually happening. And then I was looking at, how do we launch these products? How do we test them? Everything like that. And that whole phase took around 2 years from woe to go to get to launch in, I think it was 3.5 years ago now. So what's that, 2021, I think we launched mid-year. And then we launched with the belly oil and the nipple butter and a bump scrub, which again, I was looking at these body scrubs during pregnancy because I'd heard amazing things for helping, clear away old skin cells and help the new ones regenerate. And I was looking at coffee scrubs and all of these other things, but I had really, I guess, a sensitive nose because, sometimes when you're pregnant, everything can make you feel sick, from your shampoo to the groceries coming home, everything. So I wasn't really vibing a coffee scrub. So we looked at, again, natural alternatives to that kind of thing and really creating like that moment, that beautiful experience for women at home to enjoy their pregnancy skincare, but also encourage them to make it part of their routine by being, I guess, highly efficacious and smelling amazing and feeling amazing, and actually creating this ritual, I guess, if you will, for pregnant women, because that journey of pregnancy is not easy. There's really, really hard days. And I think we don't shy away from, talking about those things because it's such a challenge. But if we can create these little moments in people's day where they connect with their body and their baby and they really enjoy doing it, then that is just such an incredible thing to be part of. And now feel very privileged to be able to support, tens of thousands of women every year. And that's growing. And it all started with, I guess, that very, like I said, that very real challenge I faced as a pregnant woman. And then I guess bringing that to life is a big challenge, but we did it. And that's, I guess, how we all started.
Fantastic. Amazing. So going from an idea to an international brand is huge. What was the turning point for your business that took it to the next level?
Oh, I don't actually think there was like a turning point. I think it was my fundamental ambition to make this a global brand from the get-go. I'd always worked in corporate and I'd worked for global brands, and I never intended for it to be small. A family member once said, because I think we just launched in Mecca, and she was like, I just thought you were going to sell at the Sunday market. And I was like, do you know me at all? Like, seriously. And, buying puremama.com before we'd even launched kind of was the initial signal of that. But everything from building the brand up, the naming, the photography, the packaging, everything was supposed to be elevated enough to compete on the world stage. And there's definitely been refinements over time. But I don't think there was any pivot moment. I think it was just that vision from the start, that we wanted it to be, I guess, wanted it to at least have the ability to grow especially because I looked at the New Zealand, Australian and US market primarily, and still there wasn't that many competitors or that much available to women like myself.
Yeah, nice. So what's been the biggest challenge of scaling Pure Mama globally? Like, how have you overcome that scale challenge? I call it the stretch and grow.
The stretch and grow, I guess that's kind of twofold. So the first being navigating new markets that you're not in. So New Zealand is relatively small, and everybody knows one another, and it's really kind of, I guess there's a select pool of pregnant people at any one time, and we understand geography, psychographics, culture, everything else like that comes with New Zealand. Jumping into Australia was a huge leap, and that was a challenge because you make a lot of assumptions about Australia, and thinking that you know the market like it's New Zealand, and it's really not. So that was an interesting, big challenge. And then the US obviously is a huge one. We've been over to the US a couple of times now to do kind of market research and launch. And every time we go over, it's, there's so many learnings to take on board from a country like that, where you've got over 330 million people and one of the largest economies in the world. So you're looking at, okay, as a tiny brand targeting a very niche segment, how do you do that? And that's, I guess, a big challenge, is navigating the US consumer and purchasing behavior and understanding that from a commercial point of view and a logistical operational point of view is really challenging. So I guess, understanding new markets, entirely new markets other than New Zealand is a big one. The other one is funding it, as every especially consumer product-based business goes. When you are in hyper growth mode, there's an element of funding that comes with it, because you're essentially planning and paying for production of products before selling them. So over the last 3 years, we've kind of had these tiers of how do we jump up in a sustainable way, and finding the resource and the capital to be able to do that has been a really challenging exercise, because you actually, even though you have probably really big ambitions and really big projections and forecasts, it's another thing to be able to fund even going to market with that type of thing to even achieve those things. So that's been a very big challenge, especially whilst navigating a growing business with people and being able to pay yourself and all of those other things that come with, I guess, being self-funded and an entrepreneur in that sense.
That's amazing. Well done. I relate.
Still going.
You're doing good. You're doing good. You're actually doing amazing.
So I've sold everything I have pretty much. So we don't have any plan. We not that we don't have any plan B. That's probably not the right term, but there's just we only really visualize what success looks like, and then how do you get there, and making strategic plans to do that. Because when you are putting that much resource and that much of your livelihood into something, you have to be so confident that it's going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. That's really focused, really driven. Like, you've had that global vision from day one. So let's go. That's the focus. Go, girl. So proud of you. So, okay, you like this amazing businesswoman. So, but how do you juggle running a business and being a mum? What does a typical day look like for you?
Oh, that isn't a typical day. Seriously, it jumps, and there's every different stage of motherhood is jumping into a new phase, from having a newborn that is, feeding around the clock, and you're probably working on your phone a lot, and there's a lot of sleepless nights, and it's very fragmented, to now my youngest, she's nearly 3. She's in daycare, so at least we have consistent times, but my son is now in school, and it's a lot shorter hours. And we honestly, my husband and I, we juggle every day as what's happening this afternoon, what are we doing for dinner tonight, all of those things, those mundane things that every parent does. But it is really just looking at our schedules and what's happening. I travel quite a bit now, so there's, I guess, that added layer of complexity. But a typical day for me is really, the first couple of hours of every morning is the morning hustle, getting the kids ready, getting breakfast made, getting in, their school bags packed, getting them dressed is challenging enough. And then I kind of drop my son or my daughter off. We kind of split that, and then I could grab a coffee, come into work. And then I guess it just depends on the day based on meetings, because we now have a lot of things happening in the US. We have a lot of early, meetings with America in the morning, or suppliers or retailers over there. So, but honestly, no 2 days are the same. But that's what I love about it, because I've definitely got my fingers in so many pies, and there's everything from a photo shoot to a podcast recording to just general. At the moment, I've been working on we're launching a new website next week, and we've been working as a team on building that for the last 6 months. So today was like the final once over, and that's been 4 hours of my day today.
Yeah.
Because you're on the tools, you're absolutely doing everything from social posts as well to strategic planning, and there's nowhere to hide in that, especially in a small growth business, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. So a lot of women hesitate to start a business because of family commitments. What would your advice be to them if someone's like got an idea like you did, they've seen a gap in the market, what would your advice be?
I would say that you have to be passionate about business. And there's a lot of people that are passionate about what their idea is, but they might not be passionate enough about business. And business is being able to grow something to the point where you can pay yourself or you can afford to run profitably. And you've got to work out how that would operate. It's really interesting. I get a lot of people coming to me now asking for advice or mentorship, or can you look at this or collaborate and things? And I see where their passion is, and they're very talented, but unless they're willing or they've got this innate knowledge to want to be in business, to really look at the nitty gritty, how do you operate by selling things to a market that needs it with a really unique proposition and bringing those all together to do that, then I would say err on the side of starting a business with caution, just because it's not for everybody. And I think it's often glamorized to be running your own business or be an entrepreneur or starting something, but then it's really easy to kind of hit these points of stagnation. And we as a team, and one thing that I'm really proud of is we've always worked as a team and hired quite experienced people in their respective fields. So my sister now owns the business with me, and she came from finance and operations and corporate, and she brought a wealth of knowledge that's really helped take the business to the next level. And I had very much a background in advertising and marketing and business as well. So we understood how all different aspects of a business work. And some people come into it quite naively blind and then wonder why it's not working. And I think if you're not willing to, go deep dive into what a digital ecosystem is, or refine product development, or want to be the best that you possibly can, then it can be quite a time consuming and mentally consuming exercise to start a business. So yeah, I would say that you have to just be really passionate about business in general and your product, of course, and really fundamentally believe in it before you really throw it all in or go all out on it, because it's not for the faint-hearted, and there's a lot of sacrifices you make and a lot of hard decisions that you have to overcome, really.
Absolutely. Which so brings me to the next question, which is, have you ever felt, I actually kind of hate this question now that I think about
Okay, hit me.
it. Because, have you ever felt
I'll real honest answer.
guilt while building your brand, and how do you manage it?
Oh, I love my kids. I love my kids, but I love time away from my kids too. Like, it's if I'm being really honest, like, I love working and I love building what we're building. So I feel a bit of mum guilt sometimes if you drop them off and then, not having a great day or something like that. But then I also really try to say, well, I spend this many hours with my children, and that can be anywhere from like 4 to 7 hours a day on a general weekday. And then I spend all weekends with them. I cuddle them to bed at night. I go and see them probably 4 times every night. Like, there's a lot that you give as a mother, and the personal fulfillment I get out of work is something that is really, I guess, that I really value. So There's definitely elements of mum guilt though, like especially if I'm overseas or something and something's happening, it just pulls on your heartstrings. Like, how can it not? So I just try not to think about it too much, and I just really make sure that the time I do have with my children, I'm very present, and I'm obviously very grateful for. But yeah, I don't really feel that much mum guilt anymore. And especially even when my kids were newborns, they it's quite hard just living in that newborn phase as a new mother. Like it's long days and they're really hard, and you're just kind of surviving, not thriving. But my way around that was when the baby would sleep or something, I would do something quite productive in terms of building the business, and that made me feel really good. And that'll be different for every person, but the work side of it for me is something that I've always been really passionate about.
Yeah, nice.
Do you get mum guilt?
Um, yeah, so I started Oh Baby without babies and then had babies.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah. You interview me now. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I there was at the beginning I probably had some mum guilt, and then I realized that they didn't notice it. I noticed it. And where I was always showing up for them in a way that they would never have noticed, what was happening. And so, and then as they got older, I found that I was modeling to them, to my daughters especially, the ability to, run a business and, be a mum and do that. And now I model, also having prioritizing myself and my health and well-being while doing a business and being mum and wearing all the outfits. So yeah, I probably overfunctioned in the early days, but I mean, in the startup phase, you're everything and you wear all the hats and everything else.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, and so
And I also, oh,
no, go
I
on.
was just going to say, I also think it's really important. Like even our 5-year-old, when this afternoon, he was like, "Hi, hey, can you guys pick me up from school today?" And we both, because my husband and I both work for ourselves and we have some flexibility, he was like, "I want to do this after school. I want to go surfing and rah 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 rah." And we were like, "Nah, buddy, we have to work." And he's like, "Oh, that's not fair." And you're like, "Well, actually, this is like the role model you have to be, because if you literally did everything that they wanted to do all of the time, then that's not building like a strong foundation for them of what the real world's like." And so there's definitely days where you can do that kind of stuff, which is incredible, but it doesn't happen every day. And especially heading into the week, you need to be like, okay, well, this is how I'm doing this. And even if you needed to take that time to go to the gym or whatever, it still doesn't mean that you're like, I guess, role modeling behavior that they are going to think is unrealistic going into, their teen or adult life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And also, we're still, so what I did do was I ended up, getting a nanny on board, and that helped a lot. And my plan was always to be able to work from home and, be around the kids and kind of pick my schedule. And also for my staff to be able to do that as well, in terms of looking after their kids and prioritizing family as well. And so, and we're fortunate enough to have amazing contributors talking about, brain development. And so, when I read those articles in the magazine and on the website and stuff, I'm like, oh no, we're good. Like I'm doing all the right things. Like,
yeah, you're doing amazing.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, the guilt decreased as my understanding of their neurodevelopment increased as well by reading Oh Baby. Just a little plug for Oh Baby there. Just take. We've got amazing experts.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, and just having other people in my village, and their village as well, which was really cool. So yeah, I got over it. Yeah.
I got over
it. What's the biggest lesson you've learned about business that you wish you knew earlier?
I think it's not something that I wish I knew earlier, but it's something I've definitely learnt by doing my own thing, is just this, I guess, this fundamental requirement of you to pivot all of the time. So things go wrong, things change, opportunities come along. Like there's just so many factors being thrown at you, and you've got so many plates spinning all the time, that the ability to pivot and genuinely change direction and get on with it and, jump into the next thing is just a requirement. And I think in my previous life, you resist change a little bit, especially in really well-established structures. But in startup world, you really have to be prepared to pivot, adapt, and change all of the time. And I don't think it's something you can tell someone, though. It's not something you wish you'd known. It's just one of those things that I've learned over time that I think is really apparent now running my own business, is that you've really got to, I guess, not go with the wind, but you really have to be able to have that flexibility that makes you uncomfortable and get comfortable with the uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah. I found in corporate, to make changes that needed to be quick, it was slow. Whereas when you've got your own business, you're kind of, calling the shots, you're able to do that pivoting and adjusting really quick. And it's so much easier.
It's so much easier, and it's definitely a breath of fresh air from what I had been in. But at the same time, you still need to think critically about the way you're going, because distractions will come up all the time, or opportunities, and you need to be really clear on your vision. But I just wouldn't underestimate your ability to be able to adapt and change without, feeling like you need to resist it or uncomfortable. I see a lot of, again, this is something I see a lot of with startups or founders, is that they're so set on their vision that even if they're getting feedback or, it's not working, or they need to change something, that they're so set on the vision that they won't pivot. And that will be the downfall of that business sometimes. And it's really sad to see, but I guess that comes down to the person on how adaptable they are to change, because there's no constant in the business world, and especially in the digital, from a digital side of it to, the way that the world is going, like things happen every day, and you need to be ready to adapt to those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Very interesting.
I bet you feel the same.
Oh yeah, all the time. And I always think, especially in like different economies and stuff, like I started the company in which was a website, in a .com crash.
Exactly, right? And you're like, what? Is this a good idea? Is it not a good idea? And then even the thing, print's changed over time, digital, social, all of those things. It's just constantly changing. And to be at the forefront of that, you need to adapt quickly.
Totally. Yeah. So what keeps you motivated on tough days?
Oh, on tough days?
Yeah. Like on what?
Have
you had a tough day?
Yeah, no. I definitely have tough days. The tough days come around when I'm tired. Those are the tough days. And that's just part of motherhood. And those are so normal. And I completely empathize with anyone that's been through those newborn phases of just, really broken sleep, long stretches of no sleep, all of that kind of thing. So I think the tired days are my hardest ones. But even on those days, I still go, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to get some things done. And I then recognize the things that I can't get done on those days. And I go, I'm going to put some dedicated mental capacity towards that tomorrow, and I'm going to really dive in. But I keep going, because everything about the Pure Mama and the business that we're in is we're just moving from one step to the next, and there's always, the step that'll take you there. And I still work. I've never changed the way that I work since day dot. I still work off a to-do list on my phone. So anytime I need to do something, it just goes on my to-do list. And then if I say, okay, I've done that, then what comes next? That goes on my to-do list. And every day you can keep moving forward by knowing that each of those things, if you make them bite-size, are achievable, and you can get up and keep doing it. And I think knowing the potential of Pure Mama is what keeps me going as well. We've only I want to say we're only just getting started because we really have so much else to give and so many new products to launch and so many new markets to go into. And we've kind of built the foundations now to do that. And I guess now it's a case of how do we take it to the next level and really, I don't know what you'd say to elevate the brand and really take the world by storm, I guess.
So good. So which leads me to my next question, which was what's next for Pure Mama? Any exciting plans in the pipeline?
Yeah, this year we're launching a lot of new products, which is really exciting. We've been working on product development, takes a really long time, from ingredient formulation, stability testing, packaging, everything. And because our whole team, I guess, is super meticulous about the way everything feels and smells and works, and like we all review stuff, and if we wouldn't use it ourselves, it's not good enough, kind of thing. So product development takes a really, really long time. So this year we're launching, I think, 6 or 7 entirely new products. Mm-hmm. And a large portion of that will be around kind of birth as well as postpartum to support women, and then also around cesareans as well. So we know that's a huge portion of women that have, different birth stories and different birth challenges, and we really want to be able to support them on that journey. And then I guess if we're looking at that alongside Pure Mama as a whole, we are exciting. We're going into a range of Mecca stores later this year, which has been a huge journey for us because we're really their first ever pregnancy and postpartum brand on at a level like that with a major retailer. So that's really exciting. That'll be coming to life from April, and then we'll also be doing a lot more in the US as well. A lot more brand awareness, a lot more diving into the market, researching the market, things like that, as well as looking after our home ground. New Zealand was obviously super proud to represent New Zealand in the way that we do. And one other thing, we're doing a lot of trade shows. So we're doing a lot of baby expos, baby shows, things like that. We've never really done that before, and we're doing 10 of them this year. So we've just done Sydney and Melbourne, which was incredible. They get between 8,000 and 12,000 people through a show, and we're just, actually on our stand talking to people, educating them about Pure Mama, showing them the range, and that's a huge exercise from our team. We're traveling and showing up and setting up and everything, bringing a little shop to life. So that's a big one for us this year. And then next year we'll see what happens this year. Like I said, just one bite at a time, and we'll see where we get to.
So where can our listeners follow you and support your journey, get your product? Tell us more.
Yeah, okay. So puremama.com is our website if you want to check out anything. Like I said, we're about to launch a new website next week. It might even be live by the time you're listening to this. And follow us at Pure Mama Skincare on all of your social channels. I think I'm probably the most active on Instagram because TikTok is just a whole beast in itself, and you can find a little bit of us on TikTok, but connect with us on Instagram. And then if you want to reach out to me personally, Lara Henderson on LinkedIn is probably your best bet.
Awesome. Hey, it's been fabulous talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No worries, and congratulations on such an awesome brand and journey.
Amazing. Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Oh Baby, We Got This podcast. If you loved it, don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your parenting crew. If you're wanting more Oh Baby, then dive into Oh Baby magazine, available in digital and print format for expert advice, must-have products, parenting tips, fashion, recipes, interiors, and lifestyle inspiration. Plus, jump online and subscribe to our email newsletter for weekly pregnancy and baby updates right through to school years. You can sign up online and explore expert content, real parent stories, and so much more on obaby.co.nz. And hey, don't miss out. Check out our YouTube channel for even more parenting goodness. And we'll see you next time because, trust us, you've got this.
Okay.